Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Sydney. I am currently a student at Utah State University doing my master's in dietetics administration. So for my master's project, which is why you're here, I actually created a guide and cookbook for nutrition during pregnancy. And the recipe that we'll be doing today for cottage cheese pancakes is a recipe featured in that. And we will you'll get a sneak peek of that during this class, and then you will actually get a free copy of it for coming to this class and attending. It is something that will be available once I am an RD for purchase. So if anybody that you know is interested. But before we get started, I just wanted to say welcome and that there is a pre-survey for you to fill out before you keep watching. So if you have not done that yet, go ahead and pause me and just fill that out. It just asks a couple questions about kind of things that we'll talk about, nutrition during pregnancy, if you're familiar, that kind of a thing. And then there will be a survey after the class, after this recording, where I ask the same exact questions just to kind of see if you feel like you learned anything during this class or what I could do better next time, that kind of thing. So to get started, go ahead and pause me if you have not done the pre-survey, and then come right on back after you have. Okay, so now that you've done the survey, if you did not already, I'm going to show you just a little sneak peek into the guide and cookbook that I created for nutrition during pregnancy. Now, these are all my own recipes. All the information in this is from credible resources. I've been working on this for like 5 months now, so it's been a work in progress, but I'm so glad that it's finally done and being made available to moms. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quick and give you guys the chance to kind of see what exactly this looks like. Let's see. So okay, so here is the master's project that I created. It is a guide and cookbook to nutrition during pregnancy. Like I said before, it's called Nourishing Beginnings. And it goes through nutrition during pregnancy, kind of an overview. It goes through needs and changes during pregnancy with our bodies. And there's also available to you 5 different breakfast, lunch, and dinner recipes, 5 of each. There are some meatless options in there as well for opportunities to make some of them meatless, if that's something that you have as a lifestyle. And then very last thing, there are shopping lists at the end, and then also just my list of references. So this really is your guidebook to nutrition during pregnancy. All the information you kind of need to know in one place. I know it can be kind of confusing sometimes when it comes to what exactly we should be doing to fuel our bodies, especially with the rise in social media. So kind of having all this in one spot, just kind of to make it easier on you as you're going through this super awesome period of your life. So this just goes over why nutrition during pregnancy is so important, what things happen in your body that you should know about, important nutrients like folate, iron, iodine, calcium, vitamin D. These are all things that are important for you and for your growing baby throughout these next 9 months. And your body changes by trimester, by how many calories you need, by the exercise and weight gain that's recommended. And then also it is important to take prenatal vitamins. So if you're not already, that is highly recommended. And also there's included some tips for managing pregnancy symptoms. So this is the last page really quick. Food safety and foodborne illness. This is really important because when we're pregnant, our immune system actually becomes weaker. And so it puts you and your baby at higher risk of getting sick easier. Not just colds and stuff like that, but also sickness from food specifically. So foodborne illnesses, especially something like listeria, which you can actually get from things like deli meats. So we just want to be aware and make sure that we stay safe with the things that we're doing to our food, and also making sure that we cook things to the right temperature. So you'll notice in every single recipe in this cookbook, there are recommended recipes based on the meat that we're cooking. So for example, ground turkey, recommended to cook it to at least 165, and once it's reached that temperature, you're good to go. So with that being said, we are going to come back to the main screen and get started on our recipe for today. So today we are making cottage cheese pancakes. Sounds kind of interesting, I know, but they're actually really, really good. And I have a friend who has a 10-month-old and he also loves these. You can make them with blueberries, chocolate chips, strawberries, whatever your heart is desiring at that point in time. But yeah, so we'll go ahead and get started. And then at this point, you should have the guide and cookbook, and this recipe is on page number 9. So if you want to go ahead and scroll to that, we will get started. So, in a medium bowl, I have my bowl here. I'm just going to tilt you down. So in a medium bowl, we've got our cottage cheese, and I would recommend that you use small curd cottage cheese. It just kind of makes the texture a lot better when it comes to making the pancakes. And then you're also going to need 2 eggs, 2 large eggs, and then maple syrup. Mine's just from Walmart, so you can use whatever. If you are making it for a child that's over a year old, you can also use honey. With you can use honey, but if you have a child under 1, make sure that you're using syrup instead of honey, because there is a chance for E. coli from honey for children under 1. So just make sure that you're aware of that and that we're using syrup if we're feeding kids under 1. And then next we're gonna need vanilla. You can use imitation vanilla or you can use regular vanilla extract. And then also milk. My husband is lactose intolerant, so this is the kind of milk that we use. You can use normal milk, almond milk, whatever you use in your household. And the measuring will be the same for all of that. So we are going to take our cottage cheese. I have not opened this yet, so we're going to open that really quick. Okay. And you are going to use 1 1/4 cup of cottage cheese. So we've got our cup and we've got our rubber spatula. I'm just going to kind of mix this up, maybe throw some on the counter. Just kidding. So I'm just going to stick that in here. Okay, so we've got our 1 cup, gonna kind of even that out. Put that in there. I'm gonna scrape the sides down, and then I'm gonna grab my 1/4 cup, and I'm gonna do the same thing. Okay, just gonna kind of level off the top a little bit. Okay, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put that in there. Okay, I'm gonna set that to the side. I'm gonna close my cottage cheese, set that to the side because we are done with that now. Then I'm gonna take my 2 large eggs and I'm going to crack them into the bowl. You can crack them outside of the bowl if that's what you would rather do. I know some people prefer that. To crack that into the bowl, and then I'm actually gonna wash my hands really quick before I keep touching other things. Just because I do have raw egg on my hands. Wash. Okay. So then we're gonna go in with our sugar-free maple syrup. We need 1 1/2 tablespoons of this. So 1 tablespoon. And then I'm just using the same spatula that I used before, kind of scrape out those extra ingredients. Then I'm gonna grab my tablespoon. And I lost my half a tablespoon, so I'm just going to be putting this about halfway full. And then the sweeter that you want your pancakes, the more that you can put in. I add syrup to the top as well, so I'm not gonna go super heavy with it inside of the pancakes themselves. And then we are going to take the vanilla extract. So as you can see, most of these ingredients are from Walmart, so nothing super special here at all. We're going to take our teaspoon and fill that. So we need 1.5. I also do not have the half for this, so we're gonna kind of eyeball it and fill it up halfway. And then honestly, you can't go wrong adding a little bit extra vanilla or maple syrup. So those are kind of just like to your heart's desire. This is just the happy medium that I found when it comes to making this recipe. Then I'm gonna take my 1/4 of a cup that we used cottage cheese in earlier. I'm gonna grab my milk. Now, the only difference between this milk and normal milk is that this is lactose free. So I'm gonna fill that up. So we've got 1/4 of a cup of milk. Okay. So we have all of our wet ingredients here, and then we will add all of our dry ingredients after we go ahead and whisk this together. So I'm going to use a whisk, and we're just going to kind of blend everything together the best that we can. Kind of beat those eggs. Okay. Your mixture should look a little bit like this. It looks very interesting, I know, but it honestly already smells really good because you've got so many different things going on. Next, we are going to take our cup. I'm going to rinse this off really quick because we need it for the flour. Okay. So next we will be adding baking powder, flour, and cinnamon. And that is technically all that is left of the recipe. And then you can, at the very end, add in your blueberries or your chocolate chips, whatever your heart desires. And then we're going to start with the flour. So I'm using whole wheat flour. We're just going to grab a cup. And I actually like to use a smaller cup and kind of like pack it in this way. Because we don't want it packed super tight. We want it just like a little bit fluffy on top. Because sometimes when we scoop straight out of the bag, it adds actually more flour than we need. So it can make the texture different. Okay. So that is done. So then I'm just going to get my straight edge, which I'm just going to use this tablespoon, and I'm just going to scrape the rest that I'm not using back into the bag and go ahead and put that with the wet ingredients. Okay, I'm going to set that to the side over here because I am done with that. Next, we've got our baking powder and our cinnamon. So the baking powder, we're going to do 1 tablespoon of baking powder. I'm going to go ahead and rinse this really quick because we're going to use it for the baking powder. Okay. So we've got this. We're going to do 1 tablespoon of baking powder. So I'm going to just reach my tablespoon inside, scoop, and then scrape with the straight edge on the container. Okay, and then I'm going to put that in. And then lastly, we have got cinnamon, which I honestly feel like this makes the entire recipe. It tastes so good. And then we are going to do a 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. Okay, And then also with the cinnamon, you can add, after you make the recipe, once you'll kind of see what you wish you would have added more of when it comes to things like cinnamon, maple syrup, that kind of a thing. So now that we have flour in this mixture, I'm gonna go ahead and switch to a spatula. I am doing this to make sure that I'm not overworking the flour. I'm just gonna make sure I mix that really well all together. And then go ahead at this point, once you're done mixing, we are going to turn on the stove top to a low to medium heat, either using a nonstick frying pan, or you can use, if you have one, a griddle, which is what I'm going to be using today, just because it cooks them a little bit faster. So go ahead and turn that on. I have my griddle preheated to 250 and my frying pan over there, my saute pan, is heated up to medium low. So number wise, that's like about a 4. Okay, and now we have got our mixture. As you'll see, there are white lumps from the cottage cheese. These actually, once heat is applied to it, will fully melt, and it doesn't give like a stringy texture like normal cheese does. Instead, it just melts together, makes it fluffy, and this smells so good. So, and if you're making it right now with me, you definitely can also smell that, and it smells even better once it starts cooking. So next on my griddle, I'm actually going to save this 1/3 of a cup that I used for the flour, or for the, sorry, not the flour. Okay, I'm going to use this 1/3 of a cup, and that's what I'm going to use to portion out my cottage cheese pancakes. You can use any cooking spray. I just have this one on hand. It's just avocado cooking spray. I'm just going to go ahead and spray my griddle with that. And then I actually do not, I like to wipe my griddle before I start cooking on it after I've sprayed it, just to kind of spread out all of the stuff evenly on there. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to switch you over here. Okay, so now we have got our griddle. Like I said, you can go ahead and use the pan as well. This just cooks a little bit faster. I have it preheated to about 250. Once I put this on, this has been preheating for a little bit. So once I put the pancakes on, if I feel like it's a little too high, I'll turn it down. Okay, I'm just gonna grab my 1/3 of a cup and go ahead and put that on there. It's okay if it makes a sizzling noise. And then you can make them whatever size you want. Depending on the size that you make, if you make about the same size that I'm making, you can get around 16 pancakes. I do sometimes like to make some smaller ones. It just kind of depends what you're feeling. And I actually, because I like to make a couple different ones, I won't add chocolate chips or anything in at the point when I mix everything together. Instead, I will actually wait until I've reached this part of cooking the pancakes. And right as soon as I'm ready to flip the pancakes, I will go ahead and add in the blueberries or the chocolate chips, or just leave them plain, whatever I'm kind of feeling. So I am gonna add maybe one more little one. And then I love having like diced fresh fruit with my pancakes. So I do have some strawberries that I'm gonna probably dice up and eat with them. And once your pancakes start to kind of bubble, you'll kind of see some bubbles forming. Once you see bigger ones forming, that's when you know that they're ready to flip. So before we get to that stage, I'm gonna go ahead and grab my blueberries and my chocolate chips. And if you want, you can use fresh blueberries, you can use the chopped up strawberries, you can use really whatever you want. You can add oats, anything like that. Blueberries, the frozen ones like to dye your fingers. So, I'm going to use a little spoon so that that doesn't happen. And this is kind of the perfect heat. They are getting ready to need to be flipped. And I'm just gonna grab a couple blueberries and just sprinkle them in. And then I like to kind of like just press them down a little bit so they don't fly out when I flip it. And then these, I'm gonna add a couple little blueberries. And you'll hear a little bit more sizzle happening. That's just because the frozen water from the blueberries is hitting the griddle. So I'm gonna do these ones blueberry. And then the next ones that I put on here after I've flipped these and taken them off, I'm gonna do chocolate chip. Chocolate chip is my preferred flavor, but these are also just as equally delicious. And I'm gonna leave that one plain. Okay, these are bubbling pretty well over here. I'm just gonna go ahead and check this one. Okay, so once we've gotten kind of a light golden brown color on one side, I'm gonna go ahead and flip it. And I will be flipping it a couple more times. So it is really important to make sure that you get the right amount of baking powder in there. So that was the 1 tablespoon, not teaspoon. Because that's what's gonna help them rise whenever you cook them. And as you'll see, this doesn't have any white specks of the cottage cheese because it has now melted. So especially if you feel like you have kids that are gonna be like, oh, well, I'm not eating that, like that sounds gross, that looks gross. They look pretty much identical to normal pancakes. But honestly, the flavor is a lot richer, a lot better. And I'm not even just saying that. We've had the Krusteaz pancakes, Kodiak cakes. I've had like multiple different mixes. And these honestly are probably my favorite. Just because the texture is really nice, the flavor is really nice. Overall, they're just packed with a lot more nutrients than you would get from your normal Krusteaz pancake. That's not to say you shouldn't have those. But if you have time and the ingredients, these are really awesome and delicious to make. So while those are cooking, I've got my chocolate chips ready for the next batch. And then I'm gonna go ahead and grab a couple strawberries. And these look really good. Just gonna grab 3. I'm gonna rinse them off really quick. And then you can use a cutting board. I'm just gonna grab a plate really quick, just so I can toss it right after. And I'm only cutting a couple. This is the fun part where if you have time, you can kind of cut them and make them look really cute and pretty. So I'm just gonna dice the top off and then I'm gonna tip it upside down. And I'm going to just slice through. Now, the important part when you are cutting is to keep your fingers out of the way. We don't want to cut them, so whenever possible, make sure that they're tucked. Cutting strawberries is kind of difficult, but tucking your fingertips under will make sure that you don't have an accidentally cut yourself. Okay, and then just gonna cut my last one really quick. Normally I would have my dogs wandering in the kitchen with me and I'd be tripping on them, but we kenneled them for this adventure. But they also love strawberries, so sometimes I'll cut up a couple extra for them. And then I'm gonna go ahead and check on these guys. So these are looking really good. This was at a heat of 250. So this is also the reason that I add in the blueberries afterwards, because when you add them, especially frozen ones, to the mix before, it can sometimes turn them purple. The mix more purple. And I just like kind of the look of this more where they're sitting on top. Okay. So 250. And then we will go ahead and grab a plate, and because these will be ready in a couple seconds. Okay. So we've got our plate, and we still got quite a bit of mixture, so I'm not gonna make that all with you on here. But that is how we make cottage cheese pancakes. And at this point, while your pancakes are cooking, if you want to go ahead and pause me or just keep it going as I'm cooking these, I'm going to have you take the post survey really quick. Again, it's just the same questions that we talked about before. It just kind of goes over what we talked about. If you feel like you learned anything after looking at the guide and cookbook. Other than that, if you have any questions or anything, go ahead and feel free to email me or email Sarah and let her know, and I can kind of talk with her. But these are just about done. Okay. I made these little ones for my friend's baby, because she likes to. The nice thing about these is you can also just freeze them and reheat them later, as long as you have like freezer bags and stuff so they don't get freezer burned. Okay, so these ones are done. I'm gonna go ahead and take them off. Probably just gonna have two right now. Okay. And then I'm gonna leave those ones cooking a little bit longer. And then I'm just gonna take my strawberries, just toss them on the plate. And then I will go ahead and put syrup on this before I eat it. But there you go. There is cottage cheese pancakes. Let me know how you guys like the recipe.